Hello, viewers. Kitchen versus basement. What is the best brewing location for me? So that's the comparison you're going to see today. My kitchen versus my basement. So in this video, I show you all steps of my recipe, how each jar contains the same ingredients and preparation. I show you my temperature measurements from every day, and I show you that the fermentation is not the same. The result is different. And the recipe I'm using is a two-stage brew in Yangju, where the first stage is Bambach and the second stage is Godebab. So let's get started. It's day 0, first stage Bambach. So boil more than 1.2 liters water, maybe 1.5, 400 grams of rice flour, add small amounts of boiling water and stir. And it is better to add small amounts. I probably added a little too much at a time at the start here. It makes it harder to mix evenly. So in total, I'm adding 1.2 liters water to the 400 grams of rice flour. That's a 3-to-1 ratio. So do my best to mix that evenly. Like I said, if you add it a small amount at a time, keep it boiling. And I'm using a scale to measure the amount. So after I finished mixing that, I set it aside to cool. And as that's cooling, I'm mixing my Naruk, 180 grams of Naruk, 200 milliliters of water, and half a teaspoon of yeast. So mix that up and let that sit at room temperature as we're waiting for the Bambach to cool. Now the Bambach is cooled, I'm going to add in the Naruk mixture and mix that really well. Okay, so that looks good. And then I'm going to use a scale to divide evenly between my two jars. So each jar is 200 grams of rice flour, 700 milliliters of water, 90 grams of Naruk, quarter teaspoon of yeast. Keep the lids loose, and this is the first stage. So here's the summary of the recipe so far. So jar A goes in the kitchen cabinet, and jar B goes in the basement. And there is a temperature difference. So in general, the kitchen cabinet is around 23 degrees Celsius, and the basement is around 19 degrees Celsius. So let's look at day 1. Is there any difference? Jar A is nice and bubbly, so it was in the kitchen cabinet. Here's jar B that was in the basement. It's not as bubbly. I can still hear it. And I stir both of them 3 times a day for the first 2 days. Here's on day 2. You can see already jar A has been progressing. It's just more active and has progressed faster. So jar A is ahead of jar B because of the temperature difference. Okay, it's day 2, time for the second stage, Godebab, hard steamed rice. So I'm going to wash 1.6 kilograms of chapsal. And the washing process takes 15 minutes. Don't rush it, not too rough, just gently wash it. And let it soak for more than 3 hours. I soaked it this time for 11 hours. So soaked for 11 hours, and I drain it for 30 minutes. And here's my new steamer, a new larger steamer. And it's going to get its own video, so watch for that video in the future. So I heat up the water in the steamer, boil my steamer cloth, and when the Water is boiling. Add the rice. Wrap it up. And this will steam for 40 minutes. And then I spread it out to cool to room temperature. So stir both jars again. And add the rice to each jar evenly using the scale. Okay, so I have the same amount of rice added to each jar. And I'm going to add 300 milliliters of water to each jar. I'll show you why in a minute. And mix that up by hand. It's just a lot easier to mix well by hand to make sure the rice grains are separated. It would be hard to do this with a spoon. And still keep the lids loose. So the summary of the recipe so far, notice that the rice to water ratio in total is 1:1. That's why I had to add the 300 milliliters of water to each jar. Jar A goes in the kitchen cabinet, and jar B goes in the basement like before. So what's going to happen now? Okay, once again, A just seems a little bit ahead. The liquid is collecting on the bottom, and then some rice grains are starting to fall. So this is generally what happens for me. It's been 11 days. 12 days. Okay, I'm going to bottle after 12 days and compare. So boil my filter bag. This is the fun part. So I'm going to do jar A first. Stir it up. Carefully pour it into the filter bag. And squeeze it. So left over is 261 grams. Stir it and put it in my bottles. And then do the same for B. Make sure you have a good grip when you pick up your jar like this. Okay, let's see how much jjigae is left for jar B. 280 grams, so about the same, but just a small amount more. And put that. It was relatively easy to filter both of them. So here's my bottles, looking good. So here's my temperature and humidity measurements for the kitchen and the basement over those 12 days. Now it's time for a taste test. It's been 10 days since bottling, so this is still fresh. Looking at both of these, they're quite cloudy. I'm pretty sure when I open these, they're going to, there's some carbonation, they're going to mix up. So I don't think I'm going to be able to try the Changju today. I'm just going to taste the Wanju, both layers mixed together. Here's B. Uh-oh. So I'm having more trouble opening B. There's more carbonation in B. I've mixed them both up. And I've got the gas out of A, but still too much gas in B. It's going to overflow if I open it. Yeah. So I'm going to wait a minute for that to calm down. Now it's time for the taste test. So I'm going to be drinking this undiluted. So that's A. And here's B. So already notice the difference that B is more carbonated. All right, so here's A. And when I tasted A right after bottling, what I noticed was that A was a bit more harsh than B. So let's see if that's still the case today, 10 days later. So the smell is a little sour. Now this still tastes harsh. Has a bit of sweetness. It's strong. So it's a good brew. It's just a little harsh. So let's see if B is mellow, or at least a little more mellow than A. So here's B. Smells about the same. It's just smoother. It still has sweetness and pretty good balance. Yeah, it's just smoother. So I think B is clearly the winner here. I had some other tasters confirm this. B is the winner. Cooler temperatures are better, and it really wasn't that much of a difference in temperature. It was a consistent cooler temperature. So I hope you found this interesting. If you like this video, please click that like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching.